Hi everybody, David Harper here. This is episode 3 in my mini-series here on YouTube, teaching you how to make money buying and selling antiques. And in this episode, I'm going to show you 2 watches. These things I'm selling for a client. One of them is worth £1,100 and the other over £11,000. Can you tell the difference? I'll reveal which is which in a minute. So take a closer look at them. First of all, we've got this vintage Omega Deville. Gents watch, 1980s. Interesting face. I'll tell you more about that. 9-carat gold solid bracelet with a gold plated body. And then a different animal altogether. This is an 18-carat gold Patek Philippe, circa 20 years old, solid 18-carat gold on a plain leather strap, but a very interesting back. Just take a look at that. More in a minute. What I'm going to do here is explain how much I charge for selling items on behalf of clients, and therefore how much you should charge if you fancy having a go at this. I'll talk about the responsibilities you have as a seller, where to sell them, how to prepare them, how to maximize the highest price for both you and, of course, your client. You're here to make money. You're not a charity, right? So you've got to price these things right, and you've got to have a good working relationship with your client, and the client has got to be bought into the idea of selling. What I'm saying is this: you must only deal with clients that want to sell at realistic prices, because anybody can hike prices sky high, and that just means you're gonna stick with the stock. You're not going to make money. So you need to find clients that are willing to sell at realistic prices. A word of warning: if you meet a client that is very unrealistic in their prices, then seriously, in the nicest possible way, walk away. And talking about walking away, walk away from deals that seem too good to be true. Walk away from the scammers, because they're out there, they want your money. More to follow. So this is going to be full of tips on how to sell and get the money. But don't forget, just because we're talking about watches here, it really doesn't make any difference. The same principles, ideas and rules work with anything you're selling at any amount of money, £20 or £20,000. It makes no difference. So like in all of the videos I've produced so far on how to sell antiques and vintage items, all of the rules apply to all of the things. So when it comes to selling on behalf of a client, remember, your responsibilities are exactly the same as if you owned the item. So it's all on your head. So you must make sure that whatever you're selling is absolutely accurate, genuine, and properly described. Because if there are any problems in the future, guess who picks up the bill? You do, not your clients. They walk away with their money. So make sure that everything you're selling is completely genuine. No matter what the client might say, it's a real one, it's not a fake, and all of that, you make sure you carry out your own due diligence before you offer anything for sale. Now let's take these watches as an example. Well, I've got to tell you that the client I'm selling these for, I've been dealing with for 20 years. I've sold him tens of thousands of pounds of items, and I've sold for him tens of thousands of pounds of items. I've thoroughly checked the watches. I know their history. I know where they came from originally. So I'm completely satisfied that they are absolutely genuine. And if you're selling on behalf of a client, you've got to be sure that they're genuine, because it's your name on the receipt. You have to guarantee the authenticity. So we have an Omega Gents vintage watch here dating to the 1980s, and then we have a Patek Philippe, the Rolls Royce of watches here. Now, of course, these are both high-end watches, Omega and Patek Philippe, so they're not difficult to research. If you don't know a great deal about the brands, then just simply research them and pull all the information together. And like I've mentioned in videos previously, research is absolutely vital. And let me just tell you something: for the moments when you're absolutely fed up, you've researched something and the deal hasn't come off, never worry. Every hour you spend researching is well and truly banked for the future, because that's information that you hold in your head which will pay off 10 times over. So remember, any research you do is never wasted. Just embrace it. Once you've done all of your research, look in the item for what makes it different. So let me give you an idea. So take the Omega Gents watch here. What makes this watch different to other very similar Omegas on the market at the similar sort of money? Well, the fact that it has a solid gold 9-carat bracelet makes it different. This Omega is gold plated, so at some point somebody's put a solid gold bracelet on it, meaning that they value the watch so highly that they've spent hundreds of pounds on a lovely solid gold bracelet, which means really indicates that the watch has been well cared for and looked after, and it has. It's in lovely condition. Another selling point with this one is the colour of the face, and this you will discover in your research. The vast majority of Omegas from this period have white faces or maybe a champagne dial, but this black face, which is almost a midnight chocolate colour in certain lights, is absolutely gorgeous and much rarer. So really concentrate in this case on the colour of the face, which is rare, the fact that it has the gold bracelet, and even though this is a gent's watch, in today's world it's big enough, good enough to be a female watch, because now ladies like to wear oversized watches. And even though in the 80s this was reasonably big for a gent's watch, in today's world it's not. So it now crosses over and it becomes a unisex watch. So these are three really good, strong selling points to make this Omega stand up above the others when you're marketing it. And what about the Patek Philippe? Well, if you look online, there are a number of watches quite similar to this. This one's about 20 years old, and it's the sort of the standard, if there is such a thing in the world of Patek Philippe standard. It's the standard dress watch, 18-carat solid gold. But what makes this a little unusual is the back. This is a see-through back. It's referred to as an exhibition back. And for obvious reasons, it's exhibiting the inner workings of a Patek Philippe watch. And what you're looking at right now is about the best piece of watchmaking on the planet. So why wouldn't you exhibit it? And the vast majority of Patek Philippe's at this level in this model don't have the exhibition back. They have a solid back. So there is selling point number one, the thing that rises this Patek Philippe above others. Now look at the strap. The strap is not Patek Philippe, the leather that is, which is a downside. However, the upside is that it carries the original 18-carat Patek Philippe buckle. And this again is quite a good sign, because the watch has been used and worn regularly, and that to me, a bit like an old car, is a good thing. These things are happier being worn. Over the last 20 years, the original Patek Philippe leather strap has obviously worn. Now, the owner, I know, has spent 50 or 60 quid on a replacement leather strap and fitted the Patek Philippe 18-carat gold buckle, as opposed to spending £500 or £600 on a Patek Philippe leather strap. That's fine, it's okay. It makes them more usable, because you really don't want to be spending, no matter how much money you've got, 500 or 600 quid on a leather strap every few years, if you can buy something, to be honest, just as good in the leather for 50 or 60. It just shows that the watch has been well used, well cared for, because it's in mint condition, and well enjoyed. And those are the watches that actually work more efficiently over time than those things that have been stuffed in drawers. And what about advertising, writing the description for these watches? Here's some top tips. For goodness sake, please do not do any copy and pasting from other adverts, and even worse than that, don't copy and paste history on Omega or Patek Philippe and include it in your advert. It doesn't make you look clever, it makes you look a bit daft, because anybody that's searching for an Omega or a Patek Philippe already knows the history of the firms. And if they don't, they can Google it. They don't need you to tell them. It's basically stating the bleeding obvious, and it's really annoying. Stick with the watches, concentrate on the watches, and make sure you have no spelling mistakes. I can't begin to tell you how important that is. No one wants to give you several thousands of pounds for a watch if you've got spelling mistakes all over your advert. It just makes you look daft. So now what about photographs? Well, whatever site you're going to advertise these watches on, if the site allows 6 photographs, then give it 6 photographs. If it allows 12, then for goodness sake, give it 12 photographs. Take really unusual angled shots of these watches. Don't do the normal, make them stand out. So when someone's searching for a lovely Patek Philippe, no doubt they'll trawl the internet for days probably. They may see your advert on several different occasions. Make that ad, that main picture, stand out, make it different. Here's some examples. And for goodness sake, never photograph a vintage valuable watch on a big fat hairy wrist. It's just off-putting. Seriously, do not put the watch on your wrist. Do not take a picture. Keep the watch away from your horrible wrist. Keep it on something clean and interesting, like a marble base. Looks really good, and concentrate on the watch. And here is an example. Which do you think is the best selling picture? This one, horrible hairy wrist and in front of a TV screen, always looks great. Or for goodness sake, this one, sitting on a plain, clean, antique marble top, refined and sophisticated. So remember, nobody wants to see your big, fat, hairy wrist. Leave it out. Now then, let's see if you've got the values right. One of these watches I said was £1,100 and the other one was just over £11,000. I'm sure you've got it right. The Omega is £1,100. The Patek Philippe is £11,500. So both prices have been researched and they sit well with current models, similar models on the market right now. So you don't overpitch it, otherwise you'll never sell it, and you don't undersell it. That's pointless. And in all honesty, underselling will often put clients off. They think there's something wrong. So these are prices that are well pitched and current market. So stick to that. And what about then prices, charging, commissions that I charge and you should charge as well? Well, when it comes to objects like this, I work on a 20% commission, which on something at 1,100 quid, by the time you negotiate, take off fees and expenses, you know, to be honest, there's not a lot of money in it. There's an awful lot of work involved in selling these things, not just in the preparation and the advertising, but in dealing with inquiries. So don't undersell your time. For every item you sell, you'll probably deal with 10 inquiries, and some of them will really drain the lifeblood from you. They will ask no end of daft questions and never buy at the end. But you've got to deal with all of these things. So 20% is right. 20% on the Patek at 11.5 grand is more like it. But just like you expect your client to be sensible, you've got to be sensible too. In a case like this, when the watch is simply ready to go, it's just a case of finding the right buyer for it. You can reduce your commissions down to, I don't know, say 10%. I wouldn't do it for any less than that because of the costs, which I'll cover in a minute. But you could also maybe agree a return price back to the client. They know then exactly where they are, you know where you are, and it could help actually with your negotiating. Once you've done all your work, you've done your research, your due diligence, you've got it advertised, photographed, and you've finally found a potential buyer. Of course, remember, you've got to take on the expenses of that. And if something went wrong with that watch, let's say in 3 months, 6 months time, really it's down to you to sort that out. So when you're selling watches, you've got to have good contacts in the world of watch repairs and restoration, because rightly so, it's your responsibility not the owners. So at some point in the future, they come back and nibble you a little bit, but you've just got to deal with that. And if you're thinking 20% is a lot, well, no, it isn't, because if the client put them into auction, they would pay at least 20% in commission. And just work this out as well. The buyer of the said watch knows that they have to pay 20 or even 30% commission. So they are going to reduce the amount they bid in auction to take into account the commission. So if you're acting on behalf of a client taking just the 20%, in all honesty, work it out, do the maths. The buyer is willing to give you more money than they would bid in an auction because they're not paying you a commission, meaning you are getting the client a little more money than they would through auction, and yet you still earn your 20%. Do the maths, it makes sense. And finally, a word of warning. You are going to be hit with scammers. I promise you, if you're going to be selling watches, high-end jewelry, people are going to want to try and steal them off you. You think I'm kidding? I promise you. I will get, as soon as I advertise these, several scammers immediately offering more money, wanting to view them, trying all sorts of tricks to steal these watches. Watch out there, so you've got to be very careful. This is what I do. So first of all, I've got the watches today, they've been sent to me, I'll photograph them, I've looked at them, I've inspected them, I will now send them back to the client. They are there in their home, in their safe. I don't want to be holding onto these objects, and I really recommend that you don't either. You may have to handle them for a short period of time, then get them away, send them away. And if somebody wants any more information, then that's fine. Contact your client, get them to take some more pictures. And if somebody wants to view them, that's fine. These things live in London. I'm based in Barnard Castle. So somebody can make arrangements either to meet me in Barnard Castle, the watches can be sent to me, or meet the client or through a jeweller's in London. But before that happens, you must vet the buyer. Don't just meet people in laybys or have the watches sent to me and allow them to meet me at the shop. No.
You need to know who they are and where they're from. This is part of your due diligence, isn't it? You know, get to know your potential buyer like you get to know the watch before you show the potential buyer the watch. And no matter what they promise you, by the way, if they're promising you bags of cash, you know, if the alarm bells are ringing and they won't show you proof of their identification,
then don't even engage in any form of idea of ever meeting them, because the chances are they're a scammer and they're going to want to nick the watches off you. So it's a very dangerous area here.
Which is exactly why clients use brokers to sell things like this, because they don't want people contacting them and visiting them at home. Really, there are so many areas to cover here when it comes to potential scammers. Go with your instinct. If it feels wrong, it probably is.
If you have any other queries around this, then I don't mind. You can send me an email. I'm happy to advise. Anyway, I think that's it. I've covered a few points here with the watches. Remember, all of these things can be applied to anything you're selling. If you want me to talk about anything specific, then do let me know. But keep coming back here to YouTube for more top tips to show you how you can make money buying and selling antiques. I'm David Harper. Until next time, cheerio.